Beijing and Washington. And joining us now for more is Joel Rubin, Joel's former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State in the Obama administration. Joel, you are always the go-to source for us on these issues, and rightfully so.
Thanks,
always
JD.
love talking about the, man, good to see you again. I mean, look, in terms of everyday China-U.S. relations, how serious a move is this? I feel like we've been talking about this tension over the course of the last several years, really since early 2018. We don't really go around ordering embassies on U.S. soil to close. Help put this into perspective.
You know, we really have, and it seems like we keep on witnessing more and more provocative dynamics, and that's, again, what we have now in the case of shutting a consulate. Shutting a consulate is a major act. It's a major diplomatic cutting point. It's a demonstration that our government wants the Chinese government out of our country, and it can lead to a lot of negative follow-on ramifications. There are many different ways to handle these kinds of concerns if they are serious and pinpointed concerns about intellectual property, other than shutting down the consulate, which really blocks people-to-people contact, business-to-business contact, and the kind of daily engagement that a consulate has, which is different from the embassy here in Washington, which has much more high-level policy engagement with the United States. This is really the people-to-people and business-to-business side of things, and it's a real breach right now between the U.S. and China, and I think the Trump administration continues to try to find new ways to exacerbate tensions in an already tense relationship.
Joel, China has promised what they call a measured response. What do you think that looks like?
Well, measured response is from diplomatic terms, meaning tit for tat, meaning one-to-one. Perhaps they'll shut down a consulate in China, and that would harm our businesses. That would harm our people, our American citizens who are living in China. As you know, I've mentioned, I was in China a bit over a year ago on travel, and to have a consulate there is critical for American citizens and American businesses, as well as for visas and engagement. So the Trump administration is trying to shut down the engagement and doesn't really have a policy that we can be clear about in terms of what they want to actually achieve with China. And now this exacerbates the problem if China does the same in return.
Okay, I want to ask you about the burning of these papers. This is kind of an interesting point about what happened in Houston last night. There's basically say that people were seen burning documents at the Chinese consulate in Houston. Fire services had to pretty immediately be called to the scene. Put that in perspective. What jumped out to you, and what could possibly, dare I ask, be in what information was burned, do we think?
Well, they certainly have a unique way of doing it. But in American diplomacy, and I served at the State Department for a number of years, when an embassy or consulate is shut down, the first act is to try to protect the secrets, basically. And that may mean, in the case of an American consulate, to rip out the hard drives and break them so that they can't be used in case the foreign government comes in and tries to take it. It's a pretty aggressive response, and the concern that we would be going in and stealing their information is also a signal of how tense the relationship is. But they're burning papers. It is a dramatic symbol of, in a way, it's a symbol of the relationship right now, burning as we watch it in real time.
And Joel, talk to me a bit about the electoral consequences, at least the potential ones on this. I can't help but notice that the Trump White House, and by extension the Trump re-election campaign, have been very quick to label Joe Biden China Joe. They're trying to draw a link directly between Joe Biden and President Xi Jinping. And I guess it's a bit of an electoral gamble here, right? Trying to distance yourselves from China while saying, hey, the other guy's actually much cozier here. Do you think something like this would have happened under the watch of a President Joseph Robinette Biden?
I don't think that Joe Biden is as intemperate and maladjusted in terms of how he wants to engage China as Donald Trump. Donald Trump's all over the place. Donald Trump has been saying nice things about China and then puts on a tariff war. Then he says nice things about China and then blames them for coronavirus. And he uses racial slurs in calling it the China virus, which I'm sorry I even had to say it on the network, but I wanted to make sure that I describe what he says. And it's a really damaging way to go about it. Joe Biden will be tough. He certainly is not a stranger to great power politics and foreign policy, but he's not going to create a dynamic where everybody's afraid of what's going to happen next. He's actually going to have a policy about reining in the trade imbalance, a policy about engaging our allies in the region who are worried about China's aggressive behavior, be it in the South China Sea or elsewhere, and about their failure on human rights inside China. Those are serious issues. Trump's not addressing them, but he is certainly gaining headlines, and it seems to be that's all he's really focused on right now is the headlines and the quick hits, but no real change in how we actually make Chinese policy towards China work for our advantage.
It's fascinating to me, Joel, because I remember I was covering Congress closely during the start of the tariff war, and it was the trade war with China. It was the one thing that a lot of Democrats kind of sheepishly even would tell you to tell reporters, at least in hushed tones, okay, yeah, I actually do kind of support it because you got to play tough on China. We don't want to give Donald Trump a lot of credit. So whether you're Joe Biden or you're Donald Trump, is playing tough on China and prioritizing that tough fight a winning strategy, you think, to win or hold the White House in 2020?
Yeah, I do think that both political campaigns are looking to be tough with China, but there's being tough and smart and tough and stupid. And right now, unfortunately, we're in the latter, not the former. And we need a policy that actually moves China. The policy right now is a gift to China. We're self-isolating. China is really building its alliances across the world at our expense, be it in the Middle East, be it in Africa, and certainly in Asia. And we're seeing our businesses get harmed as well. I'm really not sure why Donald Trump thinks it's good for us to have a policy towards China that isolates us and allows China to advance its policies and harm our businesses. That's just backwards. And so you're going to hear it getting tough on China coming from the Biden campaign, but you're going to hear about it in a way that actually helps advance our interests and our values.
All right, Joel, I promise not to burn my notes from this interview now that we've concluded with it, but we do have to leave it there. That's Joel Rubin, friend of the show. Good to see you, man. Thanks a lot for taking the time.
Thanks, JD.